Welcome everyone to Agile Nova. This is our virtual session. I'm really delighted to have Mohab El Hakim with us today. He'll be talking about a pretty provocative topic here. I think he wants to make this more of a dialogue, and I'm happy to have him. And Mohab, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it, Salah, for the invitation. And as Salah mentioned, today it's more of an open discussion. I've been working a little bit with, I've been a Scrum Master for a while and moved from a Scrum Master to more of a technical role. And I wanted just to share with you my thoughts, first of all, and then have a discussion with you how we can make this role a better role. So I'll walk you through that today, and we'll talk a little bit about it. Let me give you just an introduction about myself. So I'm working for Capital One Bank right now as a tech lead. I work as an instructor as well with Learning Tree. I got my master's from Georgetown in technology management about a year ago. And my goal to go into the technology management was actually to understand how we can bridge the gap between tech people and business people in an organization. And I wanted to see, because I always, when I worked in this role, either a project manager, Scrum Master, whatever you want to call it, I felt there's always a disconnect between business and tech, and each one of them, they have their own agenda, and there isn't any conversation happening between both of them. I have 3 kids at home, so it's pretty much of a circus at home right now. So I asked them, I'm putting them in front of a TV right now, getting them their favorite movie, and hopefully they're not going to interrupt me. I can promise, but we'll see. If they decide to come in, just bear with me on that. I'm a horseback riding instructor, so I have a passion to train horses and riders. I've been doing that for the last 30 years or so. This is like hopefully my retirement plan after a long time. Have my ranch and horses and just train. As I mentioned, I'm going to share with you my experience. I worked both in the federal and the private space. So I'm working for Capital One. Before that, I worked with some federal agencies, and this is where we'll have the discussion today about that. All right. So before we start, I want you to tell me what you do for a living. So if you can go on menti.com, use this code, and just tell me your role, what you do, in like a word or two maximum. Take it from there. I'll give you a minute or two. See, the Scrum Master is getting the bold piece over here, right? I told you my kids are knocking on the door. Yeah. Right, I think we have total 17 on the call. Is that right, Salah?
20 people, but I think 17 responded.
Give another 20 seconds or so if someone wants to add. All right, so it seems the word Scrum Master, you can see it's a lot of people over here, which is actually amazing, because I think this discussion is gonna help a little bit with that piece. We have project managers, developers, agile coaches, of course. So let me walk you through what we're about to talk about. So as you can see, I'm putting the Scrum Master role in between quotations, because when we say Scrum Master, we define one framework. And if you decide to work in a Kanban or work in a different framework or something that you decide you want to do on your own, I think the title negates that, because you're coming in as a Scrum Master. That's it. So you are helping and pushing Scrum. That's it. So I'm going to work with you today trying to change this name a little bit. And happily, we changed that in Capital One, by the way, and we changed it to an Agile Delivery Lead because of this exact thing, because everyone says, okay, are we doing Scrum? It's like, no, we're not even close on doing anything related to Scrum. So why my name is Scrum Master? I'm not a Scrum Master. I'm more than just a Scrum Master. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I want to look at how technical a Scrum Master should be. I think this is kind of a little bit controversial with a lot of teams, a lot of development teams, a lot of organizations, is No, a Scrum Master is not supposed to be technical at all. All you need to do is just manage the ceremonies for us, or maybe schedule only the ceremonies and order pizza. But other than that, we don't want anything from you at all. And maybe you can schedule for us some happy hours, and we can go, Autobahn or something like that. Yeah, you can take care of that. Beyond that, don't talk to us at all. And probably half of my ceremonies are going to get canceled because we're busy working on a production development or having a production issue. So when we come and say we need a retrospective, it's like, dude, just stop talking. We have a production issue and we need to work through that. So is the Scrum Master need to be only like a cheerleader, or we need to have this person beyond that? And as I mentioned to you, I'm not going to talk for an hour. I'm not a talker in general. So I want to make sure that we communicate. Tell me if you don't agree, challenge me, and let's come out of this meeting or this conversation today on a consensus that, yeah, that makes sense what you're saying, Mohab. No, this is just doesn't make any sense at all. So I'm going to expect, please interrupt me. I asked Salah that we were just discussing that before the meeting. Is it better for us to have it on the chat window, or you just turn yourself out of mute and ask me questions? I think it's better for you to get as much as we can as if we are in one room together. Just interrupt me, remove your mute button, and just tell me, Mohab, what do you think? I think it's better to do it this way or that way. Let's have a discussion. Sounds good? All right. So as we all know, a Scrum Master, okay, is a servant leader that has no formal authority whatsoever. So as I mentioned to you, if there's a production issue or something, you are the last person that they ask. Usually they go to the tech lead or someone else and start asking question over there, and you are sidetracked. The Scrum Master is sidetracked. You're a coach, help remove impediments. We'll talk about that a little bit. Sometimes you act as a change agent. You're helping with something that we need to move and the change management around that and so on and so forth. Facilitator and manage ceremonies. And I hope we're all in agreement that there's a big difference between managing ceremonies and being a facilitator. Because managing ceremonies, basically you're scheduling a meeting and you sit over there and check your emails. A facilitator is totally different. So this is a different discussion. We can look at what is the real meaning of being a facilitator. And for sure, the Scrum Master is the person that keep us all fed and get the order, the food, and all that stuff, which I don't agree at all. This is very degrading, and I had discussions a lot of time when I was a Scrum Master with my developers. Like, Mohab, we're hungry. It's like, dude, go get your food. I'm not getting paid to order food for you. I do that voluntarily to help the team, to help them be better in what they're doing, but I'm not going to order food. And I had some interesting discussions with people about that. All right, so we have a question from NC. Not sure the guidance that the Scrum Master shouldn't be technical, but rather they need to avoid doing any work on code to maintain their role as an honest broker between the PO, the delivery team. Although I have written about how technical Scrum Masters can have their cake and eat it too on the same time. Do you want to elaborate a little bit about that? NC?
Yeah. So I guess which part? So in terms of the Scrum Master role, I think the guidance is generally that you shouldn't be, if you're a technical Scrum Master, that you shouldn't, and I'm not saying I agree with this, but just the general guidance seems to be that if you're a technical Scrum Master, that you should not do any kinds of technical things like coding on that same team, because then you've sort of given away your ability to be a neutral, honest broker whenever there's tension between the product owner on I want this and this, and the delivery team saying, well, we can't do it as quickly as you'd like. And if you're sort of doing a lot of that coding, then you might be seen, rightfully or not, as someone who is going to be partial to the other side, if you think of it as sides. So like, that's the general point of view. the thing that I've written about, and I can share the article as Salah has mentioned, is basically that, in my view, you can still do technical things in the same team, but what if they were not related to production code delivery, but rather in terms of making the process better? You know, tweaking the continuous integration pipeline, or adding more automation to creating a Docker container or whatever. Things like that that aren't necessarily about the features, but are about making the team more efficient and faster and better.
I totally agree with you on that. All right. I'm not saying that we're expecting the Scrum Master to come in and deliver code or deliver a certain feature at all. But at the same time, the other side of the spectrum, I have no idea what my team is doing. I'm just a coach. And I don't think this is a good, efficient Scrum Master. I think we need to find the sweet spot, and the team with the Scrum Master need to find the sweet spot where he or she can help. And I agree with you. I mean, it could be helping with the delivery pipelines and make sure they are more efficient over there, or maybe helping in understanding the dependencies, the upstream and downstream applications, and highlight if they can see a risk somewhere, and make sure that teams can be their kind of real looking at, are they going into a deep problem before it happens or not. So yeah, I think we're speaking the same language. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
All right. All right, so let's just forget for this coming 45 minutes or so the name Scrum Master, and just let's change it to Agile Lead. A lot of my mentors I talked with before, they mentioned to me, there's a big problem that some frameworks got really commercialized in a way that we got a blur between what is the real Agile and a certain framework, and we think that a certain framework would be the silver bullet for everything. And I don't think this is true. I think the word Agile comes from flexibility, comes from adaptability. So we need to find what framework, what right thing that worked for the team, and this is the one that will follow, not the other way around. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So I'll pause here and see if anyone strongly disagree with what I'm saying, or agree, or is like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, Mohab, I'd give a slightly alternative view. I think that it's highly preferable that whoever is, you can call them what you want, Scrum Master or lead, from an evolutionary perspective, I would like to see them either come from the team or become a member of the team over time. Because just from a financial perspective, I haven't seen anybody provide a justification for a role that of this type.
So we're trying that in Capital One. All right. So we're trying to move away. And I think the branding is very important, to be honest, because when you go in and say, I am a Scrum Master, okay, then you work with Scrum. That's it. So I think the idea of changing the branding, it changed a little bit the mindset of, yes, I'm more of an Agile coach. I'm more of an Agile lead. I'm more of coming here to provide you guidance, how you can have a better process or deliver faster or remove impediments and so on and so forth. So we're trying it, as I mentioned to you, in our organization. We changed the name, and when we did that, it was not a flip of a coin, of course, but it helped, first of all, how engineers or developers, product owners are envisioning this role and understanding what they can do beyond just helping us with the ceremonies. Because the words that are out there in the different books is like, yeah, amazing, a servant leader, great, tell me more. Tell me more. How can I be really of support to my team? And I'm talking about that out of experience. I work with 28 teams, and the teams are delivering. When we have a slow day, we're probably having 10 releases a day per team. So it's a lot of work. And if the agile lead doesn't understand what's happening, someone else is going to pick up the slack and need the work, because we need to deliver something. We need to do work, and you need to be a member of the team that can support and help us do what we're doing, you know?
So you're saying you're combining the role of an agile lead with the role of a scrum master, which to me, they're two different kinds of roles.
What do you mean by that? Tell me more.
Well, a scrum master is usually embedded with the team, or maybe with two teams at the most. A lead could be working with many more than that. Maybe providing guidance on agile, but maybe just running interference at something that's the equivalent of a scrum's level, or with all of the other parties that aren't part of the core team and maybe are providing support for things like infrastructure.
So
to me, they're two different roles.
So a scrum master is on a scrum team. Is that right?
Normally, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the piece that I'm trying to, discuss with you all, that why a scrum team, why not a development team, why we are calling it a scrum team. Because if we're calling it a scrum team, then we are following the scrum framework. But maybe the teams are doing Kanban. So why we have a Kanban team with a scrum master? I'm trying to show you that we can use this role for one team, two teams, 10 teams, whatever you. Let's not get hung up in the name, but what I'm saying is
there's a difference in the level of responsibility, in my mind, in the places where I've worked, between what you'd expect from a scrum master and what you'd expect from someone who's an agile lead. I mean,
you can again, the name, I think, is the piece that is making the confusion that we are all in right now, because we are now linking that one team or two teams needs a scrum master. I don't agree with that. I think we need someone who's a coach who can understand how can support the team and let them deliver better, irrelevant if they are a scrum master or an agile lead or whatever you want to call them,
So you're saying that basically that all the things that you're promoting here, that you're describing, they're transcendent of the agile methodology the team is using.
100%.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. So I think Sheila's point may be that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sheila, if I'm misunderstanding, but that basically in your organization, you have certain roles and labels that mean certain things, and that's coming into conflict.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there's a difference in the level of responsibility, where a scrum master, or you can call it by another name, but it's a person who's embedded with the team, or maybe with a couple of teams, and who's focused on helping the one or two teams deliver and removing impediments just within those teams, and maybe working on issues that go outside of the teams. But an agile lead, normally in any company that I've talked to, if they're talking about a lead role, they're talking about someone at a higher level who may be working with several people that are doing whatever the title is, the scrum master function, may be working with several people doing that.
Right. So you're saying the label is associated with something else in your experience.
Yeah, but I'm saying that in terms of the level of responsibility, I don't think you can equate someone who's working with 10 different teams with someone who's working closely with one or two. There's just no way there are enough hours in the day for someone to work with 10 teams and work effectively in any depth with each of those teams. There just aren't enough hours in the day to do that. Yeah, now, if you've got truly self-directed, self-managed teams, and they don't really need that sort of assistance, and they're comfortable switching hats, where one day one person's taking the lead within the team and the next day someone else is, that could work. But I haven't seen any teams that have reached that level of maturity.
So Mohab, I think Yeah, I think I agree. Like, let's try to think beyond like the what we call it, and maybe just t tell us a little bit more about how Capital One came to this, uh, to reframing this the way of work from the Scrum Master to Agile Lead. What do you see as benefits to that, and what's the downsides of that?
100%. All right. So let's start with the naming convention. I think we were all in the same boat. Like a Scrum Master is less than an Agile Lead, and we wanted to change a little bit this norm or status quo that an Agile Lead can be for one team. And we wanted to understand the idea that let's adapt Agile as a mindset and not focus on a certain framework, and find ways to have our teams deliver faster, more efficient, error-free, moving to production. So the one goal that one thing that we started doing is, changing the label, but we're going to move beyond that. One of the other things that we focused on is how can we actually look at how it can an Agile Lead remove impediments. And we wanted to see how technical this person should be, all right? And I'll give you an analogy of what we were thinking of when it comes to simple someone selling a car, all right? And you come into one of the dealerships and you go in and it's like, okay, tell me more about this car. It's like, I have no idea. Let me get you someone else to talk about. So we wanted to, first of all, let this person understand what are we delivering? What is the end product? What we want to accomplish with the feature or the product or the service that we need to deliver. We want them to understand what is the problem statement. Actually, one of the things that we did is we set some meetings with the architects that we have in our organizations to sit with our Agile leads to let them understand the big picture and know where their teams are within the whole ecosystem of what they're delivering from models and so on and so forth, and who are they dependent on from an upstream and a downstream. So when they start having a conversation with the teams, or they are in a stand-up with the team, or they are in a refinement session with the team, they can kind of understand the red flags and see if there is something that the team is missing and can help them reach a solution in a better and a faster way, and signal if there are any real impediments that they can work on. One of the other things that we asked our Agile leads to look at is if your application is on the cloud, which provider you're working on. We work heavily with AWS. So we asked our Agile leads to go and understand AWS, understand what is the meaning of, what is Amazon Web Services. And the good thing that AWS provided an technical certification. So people can go in, they don't need to code, they don't need to deliver an application, but they can understand what services AWS is providing. So when the team is sitting and talking about something and saying, okay, we have something with EC2, they understand what is the meaning of EC2, what is the meaning of S3, and so on and so forth. So they can really understand and help in removing impediments and speak the same language the team, the engineers, the product side is talking. So I'll pause here and see if you have any questions.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
So you're saying that you would expect someone with an AWS associate certificate to be able to troubleshoot AWS Amazon services?
No, at all. What I'm saying is when the engineers are sitting together and talking about anything they are delivering, he or she can understand what they are talking about. I'm not saying that someone is going to come in and troubleshoot anything at all. What I'm saying is if they are talking about, different S3 buckets and there's something happening over there, they understand what is the meaning of an S3 bucket, not going in and putting anything there in this bucket at all, or troubleshooting anything with AWS at all. Just understanding the language, understanding the overarching, what are we working with every day, and what my teams are working on every day. Make sense?
Okay, I apologize. I just was going off the slide.
So it sounds like you kind of reversed engineer the role, like, you know, figuring out what are the problems we're trying to solve, some of the responsibilities that they need to have, and then kind of figure it out, like, okay, what is that person that's going to be responsible for all these things? What are we going to call them as a
Exactly.
role, rather than
Exactly.
just having a scrum master and then the scrum master have, like, you know, responsibilities that come with it out of the book per se, like, you know, Scrum guide, for instance, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And so a lot to add to that, I think we were kind of going really into, you know, how can we be agile as an organization, and how can we find the right flavor that works for us and as an organization, and support our team to deliver what we need to deliver, right? So I want to just have a quick discussion with you. It seems that we have a lot of coaches and scrum masters on the call. I want to ask you, I'm not going to stick to the three things, but tell me more. How are you working with your team in order to remove impediments?
Hey, Mohab, I can echo what you're saying. Even at FINRA, we are operating under a somewhat similar model where these the Scrum Master or the Agile lead, whatever terminology you use, and the technical lead for the team, they kind of combined them and they made it like this technical Agile lead. So you're kind of expected to know more of the technology of what the team is working on. That way you can help and guide the team more in terms of solving or removing impediments. So I say it's slightly different, but I think that's probably where you're going.
All right. And we have Jim mentioned that we are identifying and removing are different things. I agree with you on that. And paying attention to cross-team dependencies and raise them and remove them. Rajiv, when you say cross-team dependencies, are you kind of actually tell us more what you mean by that?
So in a lot of cases, the team's work is stuck because of say they need they need something from the security team or the deployment team or the DevOps team or just other development teams within the organization. So part of my responsibility is to try to see the bigger picture, to see where things are coming from, and ensure there is timely information so that they can act on it. Look for things that can be a block in the future, and identify them as risks, and bring it up either to in the Scrum of Scrums or in to specific team leads, or even just to my team, so that they are aware, and also to raise the profile to the product owners at times, so that they know that something needs to be done. To take a simple example, let's say there is a project that depends upon on a UX team, and the UX team is providing the user interface for the stories, and the team has a lot of capacity and does not has a lot of capacity for it, and they're not and their throughput is being hampered because they're not getting enough stories in the ready condition. So looking a few sprints ahead, you can easily see that, hey, we need to get more people into the other team so that we can get the UX all ready, so that the team has stories ready to go, and they can swarm on the project and finish it.
Perfect. All right. And I see Daniel also mentioned that impediments can be faced on the team level, like team dynamics and psychological safety. 100%. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a couple of slides, and the lack of structure and product management as well. So we'll talk a little bit. So hold with me. Let's pin that, Daniel, and we'll talk a little bit on it. All right. So just FYI, these are different certs that are kind of non-technical. The cloud practitioner is one of them, introduction to Microsoft Azure and the cloud engineer. These are kind of the starting point if you want to understand what different cloud providers are offering, different services, nothing technical at all, more understanding the services that are being offered. You want to go a layer deeper than that. Some Agile leads do that out of either they're interested or they want to know more about the cloud providers. You can go into the kind of the cloud or solution architect type of certification. All right. So we talked a little bit about the technical piece, and I know some people.
Quick question.
Go ahead.
So I understand that these are not needed while you're a Scrum Master. However, like I would have thought like AWS solution architect is something too technical, or even the second level ones more than introduction. So just curious to know about your opinion on this.
So we're encouraging our Agile leads to go and get these certifications. It's not required for them, but most of them are going in and especially getting the first layer, the one for the Agile practitioner. For the cloud practitioner or cloud engineer. If they're interested to go beyond that, yes, I agree with you. The ones for like a solution architect or a cloud architect or an Azure administrator gets a little bit more technical, but if they're interested to go there, that's their call. But yes, I agree with you,
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it was just like, because I'm myself looking at doing these beginners, the intro types, I feel like that's needed. And I was trying to decide that if I want to go into solution architect or administrator. And when I read the course content, it just sounded too technical. So I was just wondering. Yeah, that's why I asked. Thank you.
Yeah. The first layers usually will suffice and will help a lot. It's going to open your eyes on a lot of things that you can support the team and help them in a process development for them. So
does it make a difference what type of team you're supporting? Because some teams are a lot more technical than others. I could see if you're supporting a team that's very technical in terms of what their mission is, that you might need to go ahead and get that second layer certification, but you might not need it at all if you're working with a team that's less focused on a specific technology.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my take on that in general is, I think somebody said that, you have only that many hours in the day. So I feel as an agile coach and Scrum Master, you have enough going on. So if I can avoid, I would like not to be that technical unless, it's a necessity. But thank you.
All right. So I think we go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
A couple of things, because this was the origin of my original question, because I thought the topic was how technical did this person need to be? And I'm aware that Capital One is doing a lot of work with artificial intelligence and blockchain and things like that, which I do. So I would just question. I mean, I understand the role of cloud services for data storage, but for instance, in those types of applications, you also have a need for some specialized operating system knowledge and notably a lot of math, right? So overall, wouldn't you say that you would expect your agile leads to be willing to learn whatever it's going to take, because the cloud might be the easy part compared to advanced math?
So for us, we work a lot with AWS. All right. So what we're asking as a first layer for our Agile leads is to understand what is AWS, and maybe later they can dig a little bit deeper and get more, but we're not asking them, it's not mandatory if you think about it, that I want you to go and get these certifications. But we're encouraging them to get these certifications so they can speak the same language as our engineers. And to add to what you just mentioned right now, yes, there are so many other things other than just understanding the providers, the cloud providers that you're working on. And we're not expecting the teams to come in and understand any of these things at all. But the more they can learn, the better they can be of a benefit for our teams to support them. You know, we provide them all what they need in order for them to learn more as an encouragement. We are now in this phase of trying to see how we can leverage more our algorithm to support the team to be more efficient and to deliver fast. Okay. So your question, I might answer it in a different way, maybe 6 months in 6 months from now. Maybe we can come in and say, this doesn't work, you know, and this is the beauty of Agile, that we're going through this journey. We see that when we started that there is more benefit of what we're doing, and we're building our own internal frameworks. We're not using only, we're using Scrum, we're using Kanban, we're using Safe. The things that works for our team and support them are the ones that we're adapting. I know I didn't answer your question 100%, but yeah, I'll give you the consulted answer. It depends.
So can you give an example of an impediment or something that you accomplished as an Agile lead that you couldn't have accomplished without one of these certifications?
100%. So one of the things that I think any organization look at is the security of your application. All right. And one of the things that you look at why your team is doing any development are the different vulnerabilities that come if they scan their code. And you know, there are some vulnerabilities that are really like critical high vulnerabilities that the teams need to address and remediate as soon as possible, versus things that we can live with for a couple of weeks until maybe before pushing to production, we do the fix or something. All right. And one of the things that we leveraged a lot our Agile leads on is help us see the patterns when it comes to these different vulnerabilities. Are we having issues with the way the coding practices? Or is it just a one-time thing? Or is it the application? Or is it the tools that we're using? Where's the issue? We need to understand the root cause of the issue in order to support our teams. And I was not asking for, or none of us were asking the Agile leads to go and read the code and tell us what is the vulnerability, but we want them to understand what are the trends that are happening with these vulnerabilities. And if it's getting repeated each and every time, we are pushing code to QA. And, you know, a quick crash course for the Agile leads to understand what we're looking for, letting them asking the questions that works for them. It helped the team to see what are the trends from one team to another and how we can deliver better. What are the issues that we're having from a coding practices, and supported us to kind of slow down or take a downward trend when it comes to vulnerabilities while we're working through the code. So that kind of an example of one of the things that we were looking at. One thing that comes to mind was S3 bucket policies. So there are different policies that you need to attach to your S3 buckets. And if these policies are not kind of secured correctly, your buckets are going to be vulnerable. So understanding these trends and knowing what is the meaning of an S3 bucket and what is the meaning of a policy, not asking them to write the policy. We're just asking them to understand what is the policy so they can support their teams in order to go through that.
But do you mean that, I guess I'm still confused though on what the impediment was.
The impediment was that if you deliver an application to production with a security vulnerability, a hacker can come in and go whatever they need.
I'm an engineer. I know about that. But what I'm saying is that and I'm sure the engineers on your team know that too. Like, I guess I'm not clear on what is gained by you knowing that.
Yeah, the trend was the piece that we wanted to understand. We wanted to understand where are we with our coding practices and what can we do in order to make our team deliver code in a better way. That would be kind of the problem statement that we were trying to solve.
So you don't run your static scan as part of your tool chain?
We do. We run our, that's the thing. We run our scans, and when you run your scans, you get out a report out of that, okay? And we wanted to understand what type of vulnerabilities we're looking at from these scans.
Yes, I understand. And I worked for an organization where we would fire you if you did not, if you pushed code with unresolved issues above a certain severity level. So are you saying you're taking that as technical debt?
That's a great piece. I think we can discuss later that we don't fire. We want to understand where is the root cause and try to solve it. So this gets us a little bit into the psychological safety and understand maybe the problem is not the coding. Maybe the problem that we don't have good scanning tools, you know? So understanding where is the root cause of the issue was the piece that we were looking for, not throwing the blame on one engineer and just firing them. I think this was not the problem that we're trying to solve. We're trying to have better coding practices across the organization.
Does it make a difference the nature of the application that you're working with?
100%.
Like, so if it's a customer facing application, something might be unacceptable that might be acceptable in the short term for something that's used internally and is considered low risk.
100%. And this is where the trends that we wanted to look at, 100%, I agree with you. If it's a customer facing application, and if this application is down for 20 seconds, we're going to lose millions, versus an application that is more on the back end that we can tolerate some things on it. 100%. Definitely. There's a difference between both. All right. So we talked more about the technical piece, and I was actually intentionally putting my presentation this way because I wanted everyone to start talking with me about that. And I was talking to Salah about it and told him, I know I'm going into a very controversial topic, but it's what I believe in. But anyway, going a little bit into the Agile lead role and how we can make this role better and make it more of a round role, not only 100% technical. What we ask our Agile leads to do, the first thing is, as I mentioned to you earlier in the presentation, there is this person is more of a bridge between the product and the tech side. So the first thing we ask them is meet with your PO, understand what they want to deliver. What are the pain points that they are facing and how you can be of kind of service to support them to move anything from a business requirements to the finish line. The second piece that we ask our Agile leads to do as well is meet with the engineers individually. And we encourage them not to meet them in a formal meeting. Of course, with this craziness that we have right now, it's a little bit different. But before COVID-19, what we ask, just go have coffee, have lunch with them, understand what they are doing, what their pain points, what are the things that they can do, what the things you can do in order to make their life easier. So meet with the PO, meet with the engineers individually. And we stress on the individual piece because we want the engineers to have this psychological safety with this Agile lead in order to talk with them frankly about the issues that they are facing. After that, we want them also to meet with our tech leads. So they look at the tech side and what are the tech deliverables that we need to work on. And a lot of questions that come to me is like, are the tech deliverables different than the business deliverables? Yes, sometimes they are. There are some compliance stuff that we need to work on, some things that we need to work on that is not very clear on the business side from an agenda or a priority perspective, but on the tech side, it's more of a priority. So we want them to talk on both ends, understand the products that we're delivering so they can speak on the same language as the engineers, as the team, and be kind of partners with our product side and the tech sides to deliver what they need to deliver. Fun is key. One of the things that we do in our organization is we always say, please, once a quarter, try to do something out of work. Either go out, either just enjoy whatever you need to enjoy and just leave work and have fun. Of course, now this is a little bit, we're trying to get creative with that and having our virtual happy hours and stuff like that, but fun is key. So please don't forget that. we ask our agile leads to be coaches, to be mentors, and we let them go through trainings to understand what's the difference between a coach and a mentor, and not to be a taskmaster. We don't want them to kind of schedule meetings and be an admin for someone. We want them to be a real coach and a real mentor. And in order for them to understand what is the meaning between coaching and mentoring, they need to learn and understand what's the meaning of that. So we help them to learn about these different skills. And the last piece that I think I've been talking about since the beginning of the presentation is, don't push a certain framework for the sake of it. Understand what the team is doing, what are the different circumstances around your team, because each team differs from one team to another, from individuals to another, from how they are. Is it co-located? Are they distributed? What's the case around this team? What they are delivering, and so on and so forth, and find the right flavor of Agile that works for them. And we're always open to discuss that with our Agile leads and understand what works for their teams in order to deliver something the right way. Okay. All right. One of the things that we help our Agile leads to work on as well is understanding what is the meaning of a powerful question. All right. In order for them to remove impediments and really understand the root cause of any of the impediments that they're facing, is to go and understand how to ask powerful questions. Ask open-ended questions, not the closed-ended questions. I don't want them to go and ask, are you happy with what you have delivered? I want them to ask more, what made you reach this outcome? And let the engineer or let the tech leader, let the PO think in order to give them more insight. We want them to go behind their assumptions, to understand the business decisions behind any of the different assumptions that are there. We want them to peel the different layers in order to know what's really behind the need, in order for them to help and support the teams. Because if you have faulty assumptions, you're going to have a faulty conclusion or an outcome. Get both sides of the story. If there's an issue or there's a problem, and I think, Daniel, you mentioned the psychological safety, if I'm not mistaken, and understand both sides. If someone is coming in and complaining, we need to understand who or what they are complaining and get the real facts, the story from both ends, in order to make sure we help and support the teams or support this individual with the right outcome. Ask follow-up questions. So we always tell them, don't have the temptation to go in and just comment on everything that is happening. Ask more questions in order to go kind of several layers deep to work with your teams and find the root cause of the issue. And then go into all the different skills like the dead air. If you are in a meeting and people sometimes are not comfortable that no one is speaking, but sometimes it's okay because people maybe are just thinking and trying to comprehend what we're saying. So it's okay if there's dead air. So understanding that. Help people deliver their own insight. I think this goes a little bit into coaching and understanding that you might go in and you're tempted to say, I can help you. You can do it this way. But sometimes you need to ask questions in order to help them find the right way for them, because your way might not be the right way for them. And the last two, take the notes and make actions, and understand the difference between facts and speculations. And this is important because sometimes people come in and it's like, I think we need to do it this way. This is different than here are the different facts that we have, and we have to do it this way because of so and so and so. So understand the difference between going through speculations versus going through different facts. I'll pause here and see if you have any questions.
Mohab, this is Kavita, or I go by Kavs. Just curious, which organization do you work for?
Capital One.
Okay, thank you.
The one question I have here is particularly, and I'm feeling it a lot right now that everyone is online. It is I find that when I go into the team and ask them questions, and partly just to get an idea of what's there, I am taking up a lot of their bandwidth right now, because the number of meetings has gone up considerably. The informal channels of communication have all dried up. So when I go in and take up, am I interfering with my team, with my team's productivity when I get in there? Because they have a bunch of project level meetings. They have other meetings for the ceremonies. They have meetings with to get the stuff done. So when I go in here, am I hampering their productivity? And how do you strike a balance?
Yeah, I mean, the situation we're all in right now is unprecedented. I mean, this is a kind of a territory that no one was in before. And I think we all, personally, we feel the pain of, the Zoom fatigue. By the end of the day, is like, I can't look at any screen anymore. And what we did in our organization is we started doing a kind of a new working agreement with the teams. Each Agile lead went and worked with their teams to find the right balance of the number of meetings that they can have per day. And we actually have a rule that on Friday after 2 p.m., it's not allowed to have meetings anymore. You need to sit, just start slowing down, or get ready for your weekend. I know this might not be possible for other organizations, but to answer your question, I think it's more of a working agreement between you and your teams to decide what are the different meetings that you have, what are the different meetings that you need to be part of, and so on and so forth.
I have a question. Yeah, thanks for bringing up the psychological safety component. I think it's really important to understanding team dynamics and how teams working effectively together. Can you give me an example? The powerful question you have here says, get both sides of the story. Can you give an example of that in your experience of how you apply that?
I think understanding your, let's do that. I know I have 4 more minutes, so let me actually stop here and see if we can go over for like about 10 minutes. Is it possible or not? So Salah, are you okay with that? Everyone, are you guys okay with that or not?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Can I go 10 minutes more? Everyone is fine?
Sure.
All right. Okay, so both sides of the story, I think this focuses more if there is a conflict or there's an argument between, different engineers within the same team. Or maybe there is a conflict happening between you're delivering something and there's another team that is holding you back. And you can define it as an impediment if you wish. If you go in and understand the real facts on both ends, you might have a better outcome, because the other team might be blocked for a different reason. And this might be something that you need to bubble up for maybe senior leadership and tell them, we're blocked, organization-wide because of 1, 2, 3. So understanding both stories and not jumping the gun because one person comes in and tell you, I'm not happy with this and that, it's gonna help you as an Agile lead to have a better informed decision on how you can help. I hope this helps.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I would say along those lines, something I've noticed on my project. So just for context, I'm actually an architect on a modernization effort for a large government agency that's difficult to modernize, and so the big issue here is there's a lot of teams doing a lot of different things, and as part of the architecture team, we're trying to promote a certain level of standards and best practices and guidance and strategies and whatever for them all to follow. But there are some teams that have very vocal and opinionated developers, and the Scrum Masters on these teams, if they're not technical enough, and they're not confident enough, they can be rolled basically by these opinionated developers. And here's how we need to do things, and here's what we should do, and we're going to go ahead and do it this way. And they're like, oh, okay, even if it sort of goes against the standards we're trying to put in place. And so even if there isn't as much of the knowledge, it would be nice if they at least had the level of confidence in themselves to sort of take a step back and not necessarily be overwhelmed by an opinionated force of nature. And so whether that means getting a certification or doing some reading or going to a meetup or talking to people or whatever it takes to get that confidence on a technical level, I think that's useful.
Thank you for saying that. I think this is a great insight. In order for you to have the confidence, you need to understand what you're talking about. So if you don't understand what you're talking about, you're just gonna, you're gonna be pushed, and people are gonna move on. So yeah, I agree with you on that. So going back to our slides, I like that from Michael Hyatt, who's saying leadership is less about having the right answers and more about having the right questions. And this kind of goes a little bit with the previous slide that talks about how you can have, understand and get the skill of asking powerful questions. Moving on, kind of trying to put everything together for you guys. So as skills that, from my humble opinion, I believe an agile lead needs to have is understand the agile. Understand agile, not a framework. Understand what is agile. Understand the different frameworks around around agile in order to have enough in his or her suitcase to come in and bring it up and help and support their teams. Have organizational skills. Understand what is, change management, all these different type of skills in order to support the team. I think Rajiv, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned that we need to work with this team in order to deliver something, and you need to know where these teams are and so on and so forth. Technical familiarity. I'm not asking again for the agile lead to come in and code or support us in any of these things, but understand what the team is working on in order to ask smart questions and to help the team and to be of value of what the team is working on. Have strong coaching and facilitation skills. And this is a big, humongous monster. So I'm not going to open this Pandora box now, but coaching, mentoring, facilitation, these are big, huge skills. If you understand them and you know them, you're going to support your team big time. Understand the true meaning of servant leader, not just servant. So there's a big difference between both. And understand how you can support your team and make sure that the team value you. And understand the true meaning of growth mindset, because there's a difference between being a fixed mindset. It's not bad, but it's different. And being a growth mindset in order you're open for learning more in order to support your team and support yourself from a skills perspective. These are some quotes that I got you online from different, you can put them as thought leaders, you can put them or SMEs that looked at the Scrum Masters and if a Scrum Master needs to be technical or not, and what are the technical enough for a Scrum Master. So you can see Martin Lampert as an example. I have times I wondered if I'm an imposter. Well, I'm coach software developers. I don't know one end of GitHub from the other. Now, however, I'm cool with that. Of course, a solid awareness of what I'll broadly call XP practices is essential so I can guide the team to explore these. I believe I can serve a team better in the long term by showing them how to behave so as to solve their own problems and orchestrating them on mentoring, on other technical experts, and work with management to create an environment where the team can thrive. All right. This is another one from Mike Vierman. It's a long one, so I'm not going to read it, but you can see it's the same kind of line that you need to understand to be technical enough in order to support your teams and support the products that they are doing. I'm done. I have one last thing. I'm a big fan of Marvel, so I always put the credits down and then I have something by the end of the credits so people can wait. So I'll pause here and see if you have any questions. I know we're over time. I apologize for that. But I have one more slide for you.
So Mohab, there is a question that a little while ago Jim asked, with like, how do you go to the Gemba when you're all working remote? Is there some sort of routine that you have established to do this in a remote environment?
I'm sorry, can you repeat this question, Salah? I'm trying to find it.
So I don't know if Jim is still around. Oh, Jim is still here.
I'm here. Yeah, the question is, how do you go to the Gemba when we are all remote? So it's really the concept of management by walking around.
Yeah.
So any thoughts or ideas, what you've seen that folks have been doing, you know, specifically around Capital One, to go see what's happening, go where the action is? And I'm talking specifically about Scrum Masters or Agile leads, as you were saying, and other managers. You know, how are they gaining insights into what's going on with their teams?
So what is happening is more of I don't think it's solving the same problem, to be honest. And you know, we won't be able to solve a problem of being co-located while we're all remote. And you know, it is what it is. We're trying to have a lot of engagement conversations with senior leadership. So we have kind of, you know, weekly check-ins with our senior leadership. We call it Ask Me Anything, in order for them to come in and talk with us. That, of course, the Agile leads are in the meetings over there. So if there is anything that they feel that the teams are facing, they try to bubble it up through S2, S3, S4, and so on and so forth. So unfortunately, I don't have a good answer to you for that, but I mean, it is what it is. We're all in it together. We're trying to get creative and trying to find ways to be as much as engaged as we can in this remote environment.
So just curious, are you doing any mobbing?
Some teams are doing mobbing, yes.
And would they allow Scrum Masters and others to be engaged in that?
It's up to the team. It's up to the team. They decide on that, you know. But yes, a lot of teams, they go in, just spin up a Zoom session and do mobbing together, and they decide what. Yeah, we're very when it comes to how the teams do their work, it's very autonomous. We decide how the team want to do it, where to do it, how to do it, as long as they're delivering what they need to deliver. They decide how they want to deliver.
All right, thanks.
One of the ideas that I saw in another meetup that I'm trying to implement is just to have a virtual coffee break. So I've tried to put that in the, I've tried to do it both on one-on-ones and also in small project-based teams. To be fair, it's nowhere as effective as Gemba, but it's better than nothing.
That's a great idea. All right, any other questions? All right, I'll leave you with one more slide and then I'll turn it back to Salah. So enjoy.
Tell me the one about the virus again, then I'll go to bed.
But my boy, you're growing weary, sleepy thoughts about your head.
Please, that one's my favourite. I promise, just once more.
Okay, snuggle down, my boy, though I know you know full well. The story starts before then, in a world I once would dwell. It was a world of waste and wonder, of poverty and plenty, back before we understood why hindsight's 2020. You see, the people came up with companies to trade across all lands, but they swelled and got much bigger than we ever could have planned. We'd always had our wants, but now it got so quick. You could have anything you dreamed of in a day, and with a click. We noticed families had stopped talking. That's not to say they never spoke, but the meaning must have melted and the work-life balance broke. And the children's eyes grew squarer, and every toddler had a phone. They filtered out the imperfections, but amidst the noise, they felt alone. And every day the skies grew thicker, till you couldn't see the stars. So we flew in planes to find them, while down below, we filled our cars. We'd drive around all day in circles. We'd forgotten how to run. We swapped the grass for tarmac, shrunk the parks till there were none. We filled the sea with plastic, because our waste was never capped, until each day when you went fishing, you'd pull them out, already wrapped. And while we drank and smoked and gambled, our leaders taught us why. It's best to not upset the lobbies. More convenient to die. But then in 2020, a new virus came our way. The governments reacted and told us all to hide away. But while we all were hidden, amidst the fear and all the while, the people dusted off their instincts. They remembered how to smile. They started clapping to say thank you and calling up their mums. And while the car keys gathered dust, they would look forward to their runs. And with the skies less full of voyagers, the earth began to breathe, and the beaches bore new wildlife that scuttled off into the seas. Some people started dancing, some were singing, some were baking. We'd grown so used to bad news, but some good news was in the making. And so when we found the cure, and were allowed to go outside, we all preferred the world we found to the one we'd left behind. Old habits became extinct, and they made way for the new, and every simple act of kindness was now given its due.
But why did it take a virus to bring the people back together?
Well, sometimes you've got to get sick, my boy, before you start feeling better. Now lie down and dream of tomorrow, and all the things that we can do. And who knows, if you dream hard enough, maybe some of them will come true. We now call it the Great Realization. And yes, since then there have been many. But that's the story of how it started, and why hindsight's 2020.
All right. Thank you all very much. Stay safe, healthy, and take care of your loved ones. Back to you, Salah.
Thank you very much, Mohab. It was really great topic and great conversation, everyone. Appreciate you staying around, and looking forward to see you at the next event. Enjoy the rest of your day.